Hello, everyone. This game is from Buenos Aires, 1980, with the white pieces, world champion Anatoly Karpov, and with the black pieces, Miguel Quinteros. This is a game in our series and playlist, winning with the closed Sicilian, and we're investigating the variation starting at move 6, F4, E6. So let's get right into it. And there's F4 and E6. Previously, we discussed the reversed Botvinnik variation, which takes place after E5. And again, for those of you that are interested, just look at the playlist, um, Win with the Closed Sicilian, and you'll see all of the different variations. So here's E6. Just let it be known that this is probably the most principled variation for black, and that is depended on by most of the high level grandmasters uh, to try to play against whites' aggressive ideas on the king side. Karpov continued. Knight f3, knight ge7, double castles, bishop e3, and here white is preparing just to play d2. The main alternative here is bishop d2. But here Karpov plays bishop e3, preparing to move d4, and this is why Quinteros drops the knight into d4. Rook b1, protecting the b pawn. Why rook b1 is because with this knight on d4, Karpov is simply preparing to move knight e2 and then playing c3 to boot the knight out. However, to do it right now will be premature after knight takes e2, queen takes e2, and then this pawn is just snatched up for free. So therefore, rook b1 is played first. Now knight ec6, reinforcing the knight. Excuse me. Now knight e2, knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, and now b6, c3. Bishop b7 by Quinteros, queen d2, and now the move d5. This move right here allows white the choice of closing up the position, and white is going to benefit since white has the space advantage on the queen side. This is a slight advantage, not a great advantage, but hey, this is the type of advantage where you can grind down or Magnus Carlsen your opponent, if you want to use that word. It's better than allowing the queen trade, and you sure don't want to allow black to play d4. All right, and then the other alternative is you don't want to allow d takes e4 and bishop takes e4. That's just dubious right here. So Karpov plays the close up the center, e5. Quinteros plays a5. Just want to show you that this is not really good. It looks good, but it's not really good because of tactical considerations on the diagonal. C takes d4, c takes d4, and then just simply knight takes d4, which wins the pawn because of the bishop hanging right there. So a5 is played, and now Karpov can play d4, queen e7, and now bishop f2. Good move, putting the bishop on a live diagonal. Rook fe1 and h5. It's a little bit ambitious. The idea is to stop or slow down at least the plan of white to play the move f5. In order to play f5, white needs to play g4 and then f5 first. However, after h5, g4 is hindered temporarily, but this just means that white just has to add in the move h3 first, then play g4. And a typical rule that I've always known is that basically moving the pawns on the side that you're weak or being attacked on usually helps facilitate the attack of the opponent. So h3 happens, and now rook a8. King comes to g2, and now f5. Again, the attempt to stop, uh, g4 from happening. Um, is double-edged because, as you can see, this whole complex is weakened. Also, when it comes to endgame considerations, this bishop being locked in like that is no good either. All right. So King G2, F5, and now Queen to E3. Okay, and there's some pressure here on the pawn. Rook F7, and now Karpov plays a Karpovian move, A3, simply protecting this square so that the knight cannot infiltrate. So after, for example, moves like c takes d4, c takes d4, there is no place for the knight to go at that point. Notice Karpov doesn't go for the dubious pawn on c5, where it would just be met by a move like that, combination like that rather. All right, let's get it. So rook f7, a3, and now a4. Finally g4 breaking through. C takes, h takes, h takes, and knight a5. And as you can see, black is getting all the counterplay he wants on the queen side, and so white is definitely compelled to make his presence felt on the king side. If he doesn't, then black is just going to be better, and all of that positional pressure is going to cause black to be better. So black's job here from here on out is to neutralize the king side assault and approach of white, and basically save his presence on the queen side to the end game, because he has definitely has the advantage on the queen side. Beautiful outposts for his pieces are available. He just basically has to not allow himself to get checkmated or lose a large portion of material in his defense. Okay, so Karpov's job is basically to attack on the king side. So after knight a5, g takes, and now rook takes. This already shows that something is wrong, because black really doesn't want to do that. But the problem is after g takes f5, then you have bishop h5, followed by the bishop coming to g6, and then basically all hell breaks loose. And of course, if here, again, no good. So he has to play this move. Now you have this isolated pawn here. So rook takes f5, bishop g4 hitting the rook, rook f to f8, rook h1, and you have this ready-made assault here. And now let's digress. Remember, I was telling you about black's early pawn advances on the king side, which were designed to stop or slow down white's assault on the king side. You see how easy it was for white to open up the king side, and that's because black helped with these moves, so h5, f5, and now the king side is wide open. You just had that isolated g6 pawn there. Continuing on, king f7. What else, right? You want to try to escape, get out of dodge. Rook comes to the 7th rank. Nimzovich would be proud. Rook h8, rook b h1, and now knight c4. Okay. Another try is just rook takes. Right. Try to exchange some pieces. Exchange the rooks. With this idea, I was just trying to basically exchange everything, and then again, like exploiting the positional advantages here. And these are one of those thematic type sacrifices here. Knight f4, and if f takes g4, e6. And as you can see, the black king is in a whole world of trouble here. After, for instance, knight c6, and then queen here, queens are forced to be traded, and then this another queen is going to be born. But there might be improvements in that. Usually in like long lines, long lines like that, you can find some type of improvement in the defense. Because instinctively, I'm kind of I'm not sure about knight c4, even though it hits the queen, right? Queen g3, and now although knight c4 might have been okay, I'm definitely not feeling knight takes b2 here. Again, more or less, definitely trying to trade some of this firepower off here. This is definitely not the time to go pawn grabbing. You see, this is weak. This is going to be weak for the rest of the game. Black should be focusing all energies on defense. Everything should be on defense right now and getting this king safe. Even if you don't trade rooks, which I think you should try to trade rooks. Even if you don't trade rooks and you bring the rook there, you gotta get this guy safe. But he probably thought he was safe. He played knight takes b2, and then f5. And I look at this king, and I'm like, the king had no business being there. Okay. And it's ironic too, right? Because all those moves, right, h5, f5, were all designed to prevent this move, and now you see it happening anyway. So f5, and finally rook takes h7, but this allows Karpov to throw that in between move in there. Right, the king had no business being there, and now he has to resign. Right, brilliant game by Karpov. Again, some faulty play at the end there by Quinteros. No reason for knight c4, knight takes b2. That was just suspect. I guess the suspect that was suspect like the Muhammad Ali Sonny Liston fight. The the phantom punch that knight takes b2. It was like what, like like why'd you do that? That king had no business being there, no business being there. But anyway, you see the threat at the end of knight g6 with this fork and checkmate at the same time. And again, all I have to say is that black had to defend the king first, make sure everything was good with the king, and then those weaknesses were there for the rest of the game. And he could have, won on the king's side. You had to stop the assault first. But obviously, he thought that he had everything under control, and he probably missed the move f5. But I know for me personally, my instincts would be going off. Like I wouldn't even. I don't know if I would have played this move right here, but at least you're hitting the queen here, right? But I definitely would have either traded here or brought this rook over. That way I can get this king, this king out of dodge here. So anyway, that's our first game with the 6 f4 e6 variation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please check the links below for books, DVDs, donation. Link is there also. Would be greatly appreciated. Um, and we're gonna keep going in the closed Sicilian. I hope you try this opening out. It's a fun opening to play, actually, with both sides. And I'll see you on the next video.